when's the last time they covered anything of Malcolm-Jamal Warner?
I grew up on the #1 television show in the freaking world.
You know, he had that new podcast coming out.
Everyone, welcome to our first episode of Not All Hood.
How many of these people was promoting that? So, like, he did a whole interview with Keisha Knight Pulliam.
But I think this is probably about to be my favorite
already.
episode. No.
I ain't seen anybody talking about that. Not at all. And it's wild because the second that I heard about it, I knew it was wrong. I felt it in my bones. I felt like he had been taken.
All right, y'all, go ahead and grab a seat because this tea right here is wild. So, remember Malcolm-Jamal's tragic death that was reported as a drowning? Well, according to Jaguar Wright, there's way more to the story than what the media is letting on. Because Jaguar Wright is alleging that Malcolm's drink was spiked on the beach and led into the water by some powerful folks who were trailing him. And it gets even crazier, y'all. Jaguar says Malcolm knew he was being followed, and apparently there's a voice note from his wife warning him about it. But here's the kicker. Jaguar claims the feds are now hiding his phone because of that voice note. For context, the entertainment world and fans were stunned when news broke that Malcolm-Jamal had passed away after reportedly drowning on a beach while on vacation in Costa Rica. The news of his death stunned the internet, and it didn't take long before major news outlets began reporting that Malcolm was at the beach swimming with his daughter. And tragically, he drowned while trying to save her. Now here's where things start to get a little suspicious because a lot of folks just weren't buying the whole Malcolm drowned while trying to save his daughter story. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. Malcolm-Jamal wasn't just any Hollywood figure. He had a rep for being cool-headed, disciplined, and one of the few principled men in the industry. He was law-abiding, didn't take shortcuts, and wasn't afraid to speak out, especially when it came to calling out the dark side of Hollywood and criticizing the agenda of men in dresses. So the idea that he, of all people, would randomly take his daughter swimming at a beach in Costa Rica that's known for deadly riptides, barely any funding, and lifeguards that are all volunteers, yeah, that wasn't sitting right with a lot of people. The math just wasn't mathing. Now, fast forward a few days later, and the Costa Rican Judicial Investigation Department released a statement which reads that Mr. Warner was playing with his daughter at the seashore at one point. He then left her out of the water, and he and a friend of his entered the sea. It was at that moment that they were swept away by the current, and the friend managed to get out. However, Mr. Warner was unable to get out and was pulled out by several people on the beach. He received care from Red Cross officials, but was pronounced dead at the scene. But here's where things get even more eyebrow-raising. This new statement from the Costa Rican authorities is now claiming that Malcolm was actually pulled from the water by several people who were already on the beach. And get this, there just happened to be not one, not two, but 3 tourists who were doctors right there at the scene. Now here's the twist. They reportedly managed to save the other men who nearly drowned, but somehow none of them were able to save Malcolm
that are deceiving.
Mike Geist helps run a volunteer lifeguard organization here. He says while no lifeguards were on duty that day, Geist's friend, who happens to be a trained lifeguard, was there to surf and discovered Warner unresponsive in the water.
You know, the first thing that they do is they bring him to the surface and give the emergency respirations.
Right there
In the water on the surfboard. And when he didn't respond to that, my friend rapidly took him into the beach and they immediately began CPR.
And y'all, as expected, this whole thing raised a lot of eyebrows, but it didn't take long before Jaguar Wright stepped into the chat and gave her 2 cents on the situation surrounding Malcolm-Jamal's death. From the conflicting reports to the suspicious detail that he was the only one who didn't make it, despite being super fit and known to be a strong swimmer, Jaguar had questions, and you, sis, came with the smoke. What she said has people looking at this whole situation very differently. According to an inside source, Jaguar Wright is making some serious claims about what happened to Malcolm-Jamal. And y'all, it's chillin'. Jaguar is saying this wasn't just some tragic accident. She believes Malcolm was unalived and that the beach was the perfect setup for it to go down. Jaguar alleges that Malcolm was at the beach with his daughter while his wife stayed back at the hotel, meaning there was no one around to watch his back. Jaguar claims his drink was spiked with something that caused hallucinations, and once it kicked in, he was led into the water and left to drown. She's standing firm on the fact that Malcolm was in great shape and a solid swimmer, so there's just no no way he would have drowned unless something was done to him first. Phew! Jaguar Wright isn't stopping there, y'all. She's now claiming that Malcolm-Jamal had been followed for a long time before his death. According to her, there were even break-ins at his home, and while things shifted a bit after he reported it to the cops, Malcolm still felt like someone was watching him. That's why, Jaguar says, his wife always had his back. But here's the chilling part. On the day he died, his wife just so happened to be in the hotel room while Malcolm was on the beach with their daughter. Coincidence? Jaguar doesn't think so. And it doesn't end there. Jaguar Wright is now allegedly calling on Costa Rican authorities to release Malcolm-Jamal's phone to the family because, get this, when his body and belongings were returned, his phone was missing. Not only that, but Jaguar also claims that his wife's phone was stolen. The whole situation is starting to feel more and more like a cover-up, and people are demanding answers. Now Jaguar Wright is also claiming that the last voicemail on Malcolm's phone was from his wife, warning him that she saw some strange faces staring up at their hotel balcony. According to Jaguar, Malcolm's wife immediately sent him a voice note telling him to be careful because something felt off. But here's where it gets even messier. Jaguar says the fact that both Malcolm's and his wife's phones went missing isn't just some random coincidence. Nope, she's convinced this was a strategic move by some powerful people trying to cover up what went down. She believes they're twisting the narrative, putting out conflicting reports, and doing everything they can to make sure Malcolm's wife never gets justice. And honestly, with all these inconsistencies, it's not hard to see why folks are raising questions. But the question is, who wants Malcolm dead? And why did they want him gone so bad they had to trail him to his holiday destination in Costa Rica? Well, Malcolm is not your regular black actor. He has on many instances refused to wear the dress, stood up against any form of humiliation ritual, and has decided to remain active in Hollywood on his own terms.
You don't necessarily want to be a black boy. What you want to do is you want to love him so divinely. You want to love him so fiercely that your disappointment will kill him. You want to adore him so much that the last thing he wants to do is disappoint you. Like, that's how the album opens. So this is an
And let's not also forget his podcast, Not All Hood, where he didn't hold back. Malcolm regularly spoke out about how Hollywood and the media lump all black people into the same tired box, recycling the same damaging stereotypes over and over again.
And the reason for the title is combating the narrative of black life, black culture that the media focuses on. And
that we're all one thing.
Yeah, and the whole concept is, we're not all hood. The black community is not a monolith. There's so many levels and lanes to the black community, and we wanted to have a space where we could acknowledge, discuss all of those lanes, because they're so varied in terms of our perspectives and our opinions and our ways of life, and we wanted to be able to have a place where we can talk about all of them.
Malcolm also had some very real things to say about modern hip-hop. He openly criticized how toxic and destructive the genre had become, calling out the misogyny, the glorification of violence, and the lack of emotional accountability.
Unfortunately, the success of hip-hop is predicated upon being anti-black. The messages in hip-hop that get the exposure are misogyny, murder, and disrespect of fellow black people.
He wasn't trying to hate. He was calling for healing, for growth, for the community to do better. But of course, that's exactly the kind of message major record labels want to bury. Because let's face it, they make millions off division, dysfunction, and chaos in the culture. Jaguar Wright is exposing the cover-up in the death of Malcolm-Jamal, had fans talking, and they left comments saying, "Who is it? I never believed that hogwash from the beginning, that he drowned. In my opinion, someone did something to him and placed him in that ocean PBP. Kinda sick how he was getting random phone calls and threats. He was named after Malcolm X, and the same thing happened to him before he was murdered. Seems like they have a playbook. They took a page from Malcolm X's murder sick. If the guy who went in the water with Malcolm was a doctor, he could have given him a shot which rendered him unconscious, so he was not able to swim and save himself. So, do you think Malcolm-Jamal drowned, or do you think someone somewhere had him unalived and made it to look like he drowned like Jaguar Wright alleges? Let me know what you think in the comments, then check out this next video.